What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Water Cooler Talk. My name is Caleb Turner, and I'm a sports writer at KSL.com. It is March 16th, 2025, otherwise known as Selection Sunday. And we are joined once again by Jackson Payne for a special Selection Sunday podcast talking about all the March Madness action to come over the next week or so, and possibly even longer than a week, depending on how these teams do. We will shortly get into that, but first, couple of housekeeping items. First of all, being that the Utah Jazz were recently fined $100,000 for sitting Lauri Markkanen when the NBA deemed that he was not actually injured. And they've also lost 9 straight games and moved to number one in the lottery odds. So things are just going dandy with the Utah Jazz right now, and hopefully they keep going that same way. Utah Hockey Club, who Jackson is repping for us tonight on the podcast, big road win tonight over Vancouver, who currently sit in the final wildcard spot.
Oh,
Um,
that's a huge win.
so massive there in the standings for the Clubbers, and more on them as we look ahead as well. But lastly, obviously, got to talk a little college hoops. So Utah State and BYU, spoiler alert, those are your two representatives in the men's NCAA tournament this year. Despite losses in their respective conference tournament semifinals. But that did not happen before BYU was able to successfully get another win over Iowa State in that Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. We talked about it last week on the pod, a rematch between the Cougars and the Cyclones. And it was another really entertaining game. High scoring, back and forth, kind of fight into the bitter end. It wasn't overtime, but could have easily kind of gotten to that point. Honestly, it might as well have been overtime with how many points were scored.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, big win for BYU just to kind of cement that late season streak that they had, 9 in a row. That ended up getting them a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. So not quite the ceiling of a 5 seed that I think some had maybe thought about. But they get that 6 seed, which BYU is unfortunately maybe kind of familiar with at this point.
Yeah.
That's the 6 seed spot. But that's where they end up after, I think what was a successful trip to Kansas City and a successful end to the season going into March Madness for BYU.
At some point, BYU's got to win in the first round as a sixth seed, right? Like, it just at some point, there's due theory, And so
Yeah.
I think what BYU proved in Kansas City is the end of the season was not a fluke. They can win. They can win these games against good teams. They can beat anybody. Um, and if you're going to beat BYU, you're not going to do it with offense. BYU's not going to
Mm.
get outslugged by anybody. BYU's going to lose when a team like Houston comes in and has a legit stable of horses that they can roll out to the perimeter and just shut you down. I mean, our good buddy Steve Pierce pointed it out. The way that Houston defends BYU is unrealistic for a lot of teams because they don't have the personnel to match that aggressiveness in the scheme. And so for people freaking out like, oh, Houston just showed how to beat BYU, it's like, well, Houston's also the only team to beat BYU in the past month, right? So, and then as far as BYU seeding goes, I think we talked about it on the show a couple weeks ago where I was like, people are going to get upset. Like every year, there's always a persecution complex with BYU fans
Mm.
regarding their seeding and feeling like they were shafted or whatever. And like, it doesn't matter where BYU is seated and where what their draw is because they can beat anybody. And I especially like this draw that they have because I'm sure we'll get into their first round matchup, but their first round matchup is tough with VCU. But I really like if they can get past VCU, being able to go against potentially Wisconsin or Montana, because I
Bingo.
feel like that is the key, right? I mean, that's so much of, I mean, your first round is important too, but like whoever you match up with second round, that's the key to kind of setting the tone. Okay, what are you going to do in this tournament going forward? If you win, like, how do you look? Like, what are you going to do going forward? Like, and Seth Davis said it, BYU could be an Elite Eight team, and I think that Wisconsin draw definitely shows that. So I think, did BYU have a 5 seed resume? Yeah, but like Louisville got an 8 seed, right? Like, there were some weird strange things were afoot in the committee meeting. And so I'm not going to complain about BYU getting a 6 seed because like, they were on the bubble like a month ago and their last month is what put them at a 6 seed, right? Like they didn't have a great non-conference schedule. Pretty much their entire resume is just the past 6 weeks. So recency bias sometimes doesn't really work with the committee. So like a 6 seed is fine. Like just be happy that they were in comfortably. There was no late drama with the bubble or anything. Um, I mean their team like West Virginia, for example, got totally screwed with the whole UNC thing. Just so I mean, there's just so many weird things that happen on Selection Sunday. BYU being a 6 seed should be the least of anyone's worries. So
Yeah, and speaking of seeding, just to kind of get these out of the way, you mentioned the 6 seed going up against an 11 seed in VCU in Denver. You mentioned you're going to be heading out there for that matchup, and like you also mentioned, likely facing 3 seed Wisconsin, whoever wins this first round matchup, and then Utah State, the other men's tournament entry from the state of Utah, gets the 10 seed going against 7 seed UCLA in Lexington, which I think we were thinking, Lexington was one of like the most likely options for where BYU could have ended up. Instead, it's the Aggies, and the winner of that matchup would likely face 2 seed Tennessee with a win, which is just a brutal sequence there to have. I mean, even if Utah State beats, a historically incredible historic like juggernaut team in UCLA, oh, who's your next one? Just the Vols, like no big deal, right?
and so I feel
Uh,
like that's kind of what BYU going on that run at the end of the season got them off the 7 line
yeah.
and put them so they didn't have to go on I mean, Wisconsin, they're a 3 seed, right? But like, come
So,
on, like
soft 3 seed.
that is
Yeah.
a soft three,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
Louisville is what we'd call a hard 8, and
Yeah.
Wisconsin is a soft three.
Yeah.
So
There are levels to
it could
this.
be it
There
could
there
be
are 2 tiers.
if BYU can win this first round matchup, which is never a given, but like they're favored for a reason and they're better than VCU, the path is awesome going forward. So Utah State, that's look, Utah State's had a pretty rough past few weeks. They kind of got what they paid for in terms of their tournament seeding. Uh, they had the Mountain West. It looked like the Mountain West was theirs to win, and they kind of collapsed at the end of the season, and they're not playing great ball. And I feel like a league like the Mountain West, kind of like the opposite of BYU, where like BYU's late finish didn't really matter to the committee. I feel
Mm,
like in the Mountain West, it's the opposite where it does,
yeah.
especially considering the narratives. Like the Mountain West is going to be a super multi-bid league, and not winning the Mountain West means a lot. It's very different than not winning the Big 12, right? I don't know if I'm making sense, but like Utah State, their slide has been evident, and people realize that, and I feel like their seeding reflected that, and they're kind of getting thrown to the sharks with a good Big Ten team in UCLA, which is still weird to say because Pac-12 should still exist, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
so
and like
that's a
the
bummer.
the funny thing about just how these matchups worked out too is like we talk about BYU's history with the 6 seed. They played against UCLA in that same matchup, the 6-11, and UCLA. I think that was the year they had like Johnny Juzang, who's now a jazz player. Was so just kind of wild, like full circle, I guess, kind of moments here. But I mean, we
Well,
have
also
to.
the fact that Ryan Odom
Yes,
is the coach of VCU, and he was just
exactly, and was at Utah State. So it's like we're just kind of swapping here. And then of course the interesting thing about VCU and Ryan Odom is like apparently there's been talks about Ryan Odom leaving to go to Virginia.
yep.
And that so our good friend Jerem Jordan over at BYU TV, BYU Sports Nation brought up this GIF from a personal favorite TV show of ours. I think you should leave with Tim Robinson, where he said it's not a distraction. This news about Ryan Odom possibly leaving. In the sketch, they're talking about a fedora with safari flaps on it. That's not a distraction. In this case, it's a coach possibly leaving. Um,
Can I say something to that real
yeah,
quick? I have a few contacts at VCU just because that's kind of near my neck of the woods out
true,
east.
true.
I was told by somebody close to the program before the Super Bowl that Odom to VCU was a done deal.
Odom to Virginia.
Odom to Virginia was a done deal.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, yeah. Well, there you go.
and that was in February.
Yeah,
Like,
over a month
so
ago, right?
I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, so like we're not necessarily breaking news on this, but it's a real thing, and like obviously, I mean, I think we talk about teams and players kind of getting motivated when a coach gets fired, but like this is kind of the opposite, where it's
Yeah.
like your coach just like he hasn't left yet, but you know that he might, so things are going to change, and you kind of feel maybe like a slight break of like loyalty or trust there. Who knows? Of
There's
of looming changes.
there's kind of an eeriness to this matchup for BYU because last year BYU was a 6 seed and they got Atlantic 10 champion Duquesne
Yes.
as an
Yeah.
11 seed. Duquesne was making their first tournament appearance since like before Star Wars came out, so it was like huge deal like for
Insane.
them. But it was their coach had announced his retirement, and so they kind of like
Oh
went
yeah.
on. And so now you're going into a similar situation. Like I will say Duquesne was bad last year, and they just kind of caught fire, made the tournament. It was weird. VCU's legit. They're 30 in Ken Palm. I've watched a bunch of their games this year. They're
Yeah.
like a top 10 defensive team in the country. I think like they're really good. And Ryan Odom, I mean, he was at UMBC when they beat UVA when they were the first 16 to knock off a one. Like
Yeah.
so
True.
his star has been rising for a long time, and it would be kind of a cool full circle moment for him to go to UVA after having humbled them back in
It's a
2018.
good point. Yeah.
So the idea that BYU is going against another Atlantic 10 champion as a 6 seed, facing an 11 with a coach possibly in his
Yeah.
his last ride with that program is it's kind of eerie, but like there's no way it happens twice in a row with a loss, right? Like, right? I mean,
I'd
there's
have
no
two.
way
I'd have
there's
two.
three
I'd have
straight
two nickels, right?
two nickels. There's no way that BYU loses 3 games in a row as a 6 seed. I mean,
Yeah. Well, look. It'll be a good game. It'll be a close game. I think BYU's favored by like 2.5 points right now or something. Like it's gonna be like this is March, right? That's what we always say. No matter what, like these are the games that we follow the sport for. This is why
yeah,
the players are in it. But
it's
like
an awesome matchup. It's gonna be
exactly. Like it'll be
like
it'll be phenomenal. And if BYU can get past that, like we mentioned, you get Wisconsin, and if you can beat Wisconsin, below that in the bracket, most likely the highest seed is Alabama, and like they are a 2 seed, but once again, like kind of a soft 2 seed.
yeah. I mean, BYU beat Iowa State. BYU beat Arizona. Like BYU has these quality wins. They've shown that they can hang with the big boys, and so a Wisconsin or an Alabama doesn't really phase me that much if I'm in BYU shoes. And this VCU matchup is so interesting because it's legit strength on strength. Like BYU is one of the top effective field goal shooting
Mm,
teams, and VCU is the best. They allow the lowest effective field goal percentage. So it's literally strength on strength. But then again, like the Atlantic 10, I'm a big Atlantic 10 guy because I like George Mason, but like it's not a great league. It was the eighth best conference in terms of strength of whatever. I think Ken Palm has them as the eighth best conference. It was a one bid league. If George Mason had beaten them in the final today, VCU would have got that UNC spot. So VCU had a resume to get a very like by the skin of their teeth at large bid, but like it didn't happen. So it's a one bid league. Say that 10 times fast. Their best win is Colorado State. They've played 3 quad 1 wins all season. Like BYU's battle tested, like they've gone in this Big 12 gauntlet and kind of overcome and had these great they're on this run. They're one of the hottest teams in the country. VCU is really good too, but like they've been playing a different sport almost. And then you factor in the altitude too. Like BYU's playing in Denver.
yeah.
BYU's going to be acclimated to that kind of altitude. VCU's flying across the country, playing at Denver. They're one of the like their tempo is one of the lowest in the country. If BYU can speed them up and kind of like control the tempo in this game at altitude in a place, I mean, 7 hours away from Provo, going to have a lot of fans there. Like, I just the ball should be in BYU's court to win this game. Obviously, it's March. Anything can happen. BYU shouldn't have lost to Duquesne last year, but they did. But I just feel like if BYU can get the monkey off their back, just win this first round game, there's no way that they don't win and go to the Sweet 16 the next game, right? Like it just feels like this is kind of the weight on their shoulders. Like the last time BYU won a game in the tournament, I'm trying to like Parks and Rec and The Office and 30 Rock were on TV, and Obama was in his first term, and uh, Kevin Young was coaching the Utah Flash, right? Like just it was so long ago. Like the Hunger Games hadn't even come out in theaters, right? Like so many weird things, and the world has changed so much. So if BYU can snap this drought, it just feels like they got momentum. They can go and beat a soft 3 in Wisconsin. But VCU is a challenging opponent. Like I think BYU is going to win, but it is going to be really, really, really compelling basketball because when you get strength on strength like that, and you throw in just, I mean, it's two good teams, right? Like it's VCU's an 11 seed, but they're 30 in Ken Palm. BYU's a 6, and they were 24 in Ken Palm. Like in terms of metrics, they're not that far off, but like I don't know. There's so many layers to this game. It's the ogre of college basketball tournament games, right? It's layer upon layer of content. So I'm really excited to be there, and hopefully BYU can get past the first round because I just want to see BYU in a one shining moment video because that'd be cool. I need to see. Last year I felt like we were robbed of the Ali Khalifa
Oh,
One shining moment cameo, and so hopefully this year the Tater Tot King himself, Richie Saunders, can get some screen time at the end of the tournament.
yeah. How about that shout out from Orida, huh?
Hey, they take care of their people, it's a that's a company you want to work for.
For
And
those who don't know, it was revealed during one of BYU's recent games
it
that
is
Richie Saunders is the descendant of the inventor of the tater tot. So he's been dubbed the Tater Tot King. I believe I think he did. Was he wearing a hat that was it like an Orida hat? And then they quote tweeted him, and then there was like a video of him like shooting a basketball, but the basketball was a tater tot. Just really great stuff. So in the one shining moment video, it'll be him shooting a tater tot, obviously. And you know you mentioned wins over Arizona as well, and it's funny like Arizona and Baylor are in the same quadrant of the bracket as BYU as well. Like it's like these things are coming together where it's like this can't be coincidence that like all these pieces have come together. Now, given the one seed in this quadrant is Duke,
yeah,
potentially, you know, depending on who on if Cooper Flag is playing or not, like maybe the best team in the country.
yeah,
So you know, if your ambitions lie, you know, further than a Sweet 16, things could certainly get interesting. But just the teams like in this quadrant are like really interesting to look at, and it's almost like things if they can get past this first round, like things have broken in a really appealing way for BYU.
100%. I mean, this should be VCU is a really tough first round matchup. I'm not going to deny that. But this is as good a path as I think BYU could have had. And I think that's kind of what you like. If BYU loses to VCU, that's their fault,
Right.
obviously. The path is there. Like they can make a Sweet 16. They've only been to two in their history. And when BYU has a generational player, that's usually when they go far. Like Danny Ainge and Jimmer were both player of the years, and that's the two Sweet 16s BYU's made. Yegor isn't anywhere near Naismith player of the year, but like if he's a top 10 pick, ideally that's a guy and a Richie Saunders that is going to play in the NBA as well. Like those are guys that should be able to take you to at least this. They should win
Yeah.
two tournament games. And then
Yeah.
if Cooper Flag is hurt, Duke's a totally different team. Like
Right.
I'm not trying to put on blue goggles here, but like BYU has a really benefit. It's a very, they're in a very good spot.
Yeah, I agree.
And VCU, just get past VCU, and I feel like it gets a lot easier. So
Yeah, so Thursday at 2 p.m. ish, I think is tip off for that Mountain Time. And then the Utah State game is later that same day. Both games on TNT. So,
I,
um,
I will say though, I'm really bummed. Honestly, I'm going to Denver because I have to miss Jazz Wizards in Salt Lake for
oh,
no this.
it's the tank showdown. That's
I know it
that
was like
that on that game honestly could end up deciding who has the worst record in the NBA.
I'm sad because I wanted to go there. Just like the historical implication, like if whoever wins that game gets Cooper Flag, like that's
Yeah,
a huge game. Like
literally.
just a meme, like it's terrible basketball. And but
Dude, there was some stat that somebody posted though about the Eastern Conference. It was like there's only like two or three teams that have won more games than the Wizards over the last 2 weeks. Like they've kind of gone on like a bit of a run, or the Eastern Conference is just really bad, which is also true.
I mean it's top heavy with Cleveland and Boston, obviously, and
Yeah.
uh yeah. Then ever since they traded former Utah running Kyle Kuzma,
Oh, yeah.
the young guys for the Wizards have kind of been cooking. So I think the Wizards have a nice future. I'm excited for meaningful playoff basketball to return to DC, but the tournament is calling and I got to go. And so I wish I could be there for the Tank Bowl, but it's somebody else will have that fortune.
The Jazz will get Cooper Flag, and the Wizards will end up with the consolation prize of the best point guard of maybe like the last 10 years in NBA draft, Dylan Harper. So it'll be fine. Whoever gets that number two pick, you'll be fine. You know, it's the point guard led league anyway, so you're gonna want Dylan Harper, believe me. Put that in
Yeah.
Sharpie.
I kind of want this could be a funny man on the street just because you know how Jazz fans love the past a lot. Like that's kind of their
Like too
a
much
little too
nostalgia.
much. I wonder if you did a man on the street with Jazz fans and you asked them, would you rather have Cooper Flag this year or one of the Boozer twins next year?
Mm,
I bet you get a good fit. I mean, because the Boozers are good. I don't want to.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Cooper Flag is generational, like. But I think a lot of Utah fans would be. I'm not trying to diss on Jazz fans, but like, I think there'd be a lot of Jazz fans that would love the idea of a Boozer back in Utah.
I bet, yeah. I mean, I'm probably one of them. That's a fun idea.
I'm not saying it has to be either or, but like,
Right. I'd probably be surprised by,
I
yeah.
would love to see a Boozer twin in Utah because that'd be cool. That'd be kind of a full circle. And I know Carlos Boozer of like all the past. I mean, I guess like Stockton, Malone, and Eaton and Hornacek liked playing in Utah, but like Carlos Boozer, I mean, he's from Alaska. Like he loved Utah. Like he was very much he was a free agent that signed with Utah, right? Like that never happens. So,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Uh,
hopefully if this one comes, that'd be cool.
yeah. So sorry you're missing the tank off, but I can't wait to hear what goes down in the Mile High City
Going to Ball Arena,
Ball Arena, of course, the home of Nikola Jokic and his horses.
aptly named.
We should know there is one other team from the state that is going to March Madness. It is the Utah women's basketball team. They are slotted in as an 8 seed in the women's tournament, heading facing off against 9 seed Indiana in
Ooh,
Columbia, South Carolina. However, not an appealing path for them because the winner of that matchup likely taking on South Carolina, a 1 seed. Um, Perennial national contender South Carolina women's basketball team. So kind of a similar situation to Utah State there, having to take, your reward is facing Tennessee, your reward is facing South Carolina. So a couple tough draws for Utah teams. But congratulations to the Lady Running Utes nonetheless, making it into the tournament.
yeah, and honestly, like it was such a weird year for Utah women's basketball. Like the expectations were so high. Their coach leaves, and did she go to the Sparks? Is that where she?
Sparks, Cameron Brink's coach.
Yeah, I mean, so you lose your coach to the WNBA, you get a new coach, you kind of don't really meet expectations. If you can win a tournament game, that's an awesome season just for what happened. Just take it for what it is. I mean, Don Staley and South Carolina is a buzzsaw, so I mean, it could be worse. You could be looking for a new coach like BYU is. So take the tournament win and keep building forward. So
Indeed. And the other team playing a little bit of postseason basketball, though it is not March Madness, not the NCAA tournament. Utah Valley men's basketball team, the Runnin' Wolverines, head into the
what they're
NIT.
called?
No,
They're the running.
I made that up.
It's like,
Don't fact check me on that. Going to the NIT, the not in tournament, after falling in the WAC final, the championship game,
yeah.
unfortunately for them against GCU.
Not to put on my Bill Simmons cap here, but like, is UVU men's basketball the Buffalo Bills of the WAC? Like, they're always in the title game and they never win. Like, they just I think that's their seventh appearance in the title game and they're 0 for 7. That's kind of unreal considering like
It's not what you want.
it's the WAC. Like, at
Yeah.
some point, you should be the best team in the WAC.
Yeah, like how does a team at that level stay good for that or stay just good enough to make it, but not good enough to win it all that for that long? It's tough.
A bummer. I was hoping they'd make it this year because the idea of them being a 14 and having to
Right.
play Kentucky was awesome.
Oh, yes.
Because I think, well, because Grand Canyon got a 13 because they're playing my Maryland running Terrapins.
There we go.
But UVU probably would have been a 14 seed, and them playing Pope would have been hilarious. Did you see the video? It was Kentucky during their selection Sunday. Their team, for whatever reason, thought they might be playing BYU, and all the coaches are like looking towards Pope, and Pope's body language is like super uncomfy.
Oh no.
Like classic reaction vid.
Wait, aren't are terrapins? What animal is that? Is that a fish?
It's a
Or
turtle.
oh, it's a turtle. So they maybe they run.
Yeah,
Maybe they swim. I don't know what they do.
yeah. They lose at the buzzer a bunch.
Yeah. Lastly, I know this is your favorite subject, talking a little soccer.
Oh yeah.
Our boys down at Real Salt Lake, they got a big win though. First win in Houston since 2018, which I
Oh,
believe was that the year you graduated high school?
that was the year I graduated high school. Yeah.
And it was also the number one movie at the box office when they won that last game, August 2018. Any guesses?
August 2018. Was it? I'm gonna guess Ant-Man and the Wasp.
No, that could be close. I didn't look at the weeks around it, but right that week it was Crazy Rich Asians.
Oh wow, that's I think
So
Ant-Man and the Wasp came out in because it
maybe
was
like
between
like
Endgame
before
and
like July, June, July.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Would have guessed Solo, but everyone knows everyone saw that.
Yeah, it didn't earn enough money,
What was I gonna
unfortunately.
say? They still have a sorry forgive my RSL ignorance. I'm sure this is a. Do they still have Diego Luna? Is he still there?
Yes. Speaking of Star Wars, yeah.
I was gonna say like that's my reason to follow RSL because they got a literally Cassian
Ca
or
Cassian Andor,
Cassian Andrew.
as the guy says in the TV show, which is coming back April 19th. Who's counting though?
I look forward to finally starting it for the first time.
So a big win there for our running RSLers. Um, and they'll be back at home facing another Texas team, Dallas, on Saturday at America First Field in Sandy. Your mission city, your favorite city in the world, Sandy, Utah.
Yeah, lived right next to the stadium, the Celestial City.
And
Random, but did the
yeah,
RSL Academy become Utah Prep? Is that what happened?
no, not exactly. Um,
Is the RSL Basketball Academy?
there was a little bit of crossover there, I think.
Because
I don't know if it was like an official like connection there, but there is no longer an RSL basketball academy.
okay, so it's like Utah Prep's like the spiritual successor almost.
Yeah, that sounds right, but it moved to the other side of the state, so
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I meant to ask you that, so glad I could do it in front of a worldwide audience
of
here.
course, of course. Yeah, there used to be a basketball hoop in the indoor training facility for RSL, where the basketball team would also practice, but they took that out. So no more basketball in Harriman except for the Harriman high school basketball team. But
Yeah, the Mustangs.
yeah, that sounds right. Speaking of basketball, our winner of the week. This might be a little controversial, but I'm gonna go with Lauri Markkanen
Ooh,
because
successfully tipping off the league.
yeah, and well. And I feel bad for the guy because
Yeah,
like I mean he obviously was did not play for several games in a row and obviously was not as injured as maybe it was described. And so he's a professional basketball player that's not able to play basketball, which
yeah.
I can't imagine is very fun for a guy like him. And so now because of that fine, he gets to play more basketball. Now, given the game I covered on Friday, he started and played great in the first half. Just didn't play at all in the second half. So there's that option too for the Jazz. You know, you can say that the guy is dressing and playing. Walker Kessler even dressed for the game. He didn't play at all in the game. So you know, there's some creative tactics still going on here with the Utah Jazz,
Yeah.
and Markkanen might not play as much. But I think for now we'll take a win with the fine. Because at least for a little while, the Jazz are forced to play him a little bit more than they have been.
I just feel like why is he on the Jazz now? You know, like
Yeah,
his
that's another
prime
point.
his prime is not matching up with their future. Like, go get something for him, you know? Like I kind of wish they traded him to the Warriors just because
It,
like
it should have happened.
I really like Lauri Markkanen. Like I want him to be in Utah forever. I want him to be a lifer and have a jersey retired someday or just be one of those like era defining players for the franchise. But like it's such a disservice to make him play on this team, you know, where
Yep.
and you look at like I know that him and Jimmy Butler are very different players, but looking at the Warriors since acquiring Jimmy Butler and how much better they've been, well, I mean, with Laurie Mark, I'm not like they probably couldn't have pulled off that trade had they traded for Markkanen, but like Markkanen on that Warriors team would have been awesome too, right? Like I mean, there's so many places where like a Laurie Markkanen could be like that next step type player, like you know, like that's who puts you over the edge as like a complimentary piece. So
Yeah.
I wish he could play some more meaningful basketball just as a personal fan of Laurie, but I'm glad he at least gets to play in Utah now in games that mean something and trying to lose and trying to capture the flag, but at
Yeah.
least sport about it, I think. I mean,
I mean, also the fun thing about it, at least I noticed this, in since he's not guaranteed a lot of minutes, the minutes that he is in, he's like being pretty assertive and
yeah,
just like he's taking like some really crazy threes and like his game is just like he's just the go-to guy and he's like I'm
yeah,
gonna take as many shots as I want because I'm probably not gonna play the second half.
yeah. He's I'm still mad the Jazz got rid of Jalen Hood Shafino, you know. I was
Yeah,
I
tough
was really
times
really
there.
looking forward to that one.
There was a really brief moment there where we were like, man, we're in the biggest trade in NBA history and we're gonna get something out of it. But
It was just, I mean, I wish like I don't care how much he plays, like just keep him on the roster for the sole reminder that the Mavs traded Luca. Like that's a great scare tactic when you play a team in your conference. Like you play the Mavs, you can beat them every single time because
this guy.
it's like man, our GM's a moron. Like, how did this happen? So
Yeah, definitely a cautionary tale what went down in Dallas over the last couple months. Don't do that. So honestly, maybe the fact that the Jazz didn't deal with Lowry, maybe that's
very
good.
okay, very different though.
Oh,
Let's like
obviously very
that's
different, but like it could be good karma. You know, who
yeah.
knows down the line.
Did you see Southwest like is changing their whole shebang?
Yeah.
And so there's no free bags and no like they're basically everything that made Southwest great, they've ruined.
But at
And then
least we didn't trade Luca.
yeah, that was their thing. It's like how tone deaf can you be? It's like yeah.
People are grieving.
I think because also Southwest is based in Dallas,
Yeah.
so it's like just absolutely stabbing your hometown in the heart even more.
It would have been even
You
worse
have
if
to watch the Cowboys there.
it would have
Like,
been so much worse if it was American Airlines because the arena is American Airlines.
oh,
Can
oh
you
my
imagine?
gosh,
Oh my gosh.
that'd be so funny.
They're like, we're literally the ones that flew. We flew Luca to LA. Sorry.
Dude, did you see this is old news, but did you see the picture of Palinka and Rod and Nico Harrison in the coffee place? That meeting, there's like a 4K image of the trade going down. Like that's the craziest part to me.
This had to be
Photo
staged.
evidence that
This is
happened.
like part of like some like super elaborate like jury duty type TV show. Like
It's like way too nice of a picture too. Like usually it's like a really blurry picture and one
yeah.
dude's like something dumb, but it's like it's like the kind of picture that you would hang up in the coffee house, like of customers,
They
like
honestly should hang that up. Be like, this is the room where it happened.
it's a historical site. There's like a plaque and people go on tours there. Just
Yes. Nonetheless, there is more basketball to be played.
oh yes,
Do not fear. More jazz, more college hoops, more madness coming at you. Starting this Thursday, March Madness. Get your brackets ready. I just got an invite from my uncle to join a bracket group.
oh yeah.
Join a bracket group. Have some fun with it. Make some crazy picks. Do your upsets. Do whatever you got to do. If you want to just pick by colors and mascots, that's fun too. And we all got to have a certain
Everyone knows
a method to our madness, if you will.
everyone knows ball in their own special way.
Who's your March Madness winner?
St. John's. I'm going Patino. Come on.
Yeah, there
It's
we
either
go. Red
it's St.
Storm.
it's St. John's or Houston. I like Auburn. I don't trust them.
You're going all red.
I'm going all red, just like the election.
I see red.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I like Auburn. I just don't trust them.
Yeah,
I
same.
don't trust Duke if Cooper Flag is banged up. And just Patino is this is like his villain arc, like he's in I don't give two craps mode. Like this is just the momentum with St. John's. It just feels like it needs to culminate with a championship. And if not, it's Houston because Houston,
Yeah.
the way they defend the perimeter while also shooting like 41% from three is ridiculous. So it's gonna be one of those two teams, and I'm looking forward to seeing which one of them proves me right. So
I'm gonna go Mark Pope and Kentucky, champions of the world.
well, that's a speaking of a soft three seed, by the way.
Yeah.
Not trying to hate on my boy Pope, but that
No.
that
Yeah, that's
that's
good.
not a three seed. Honestly, were all the three seeds just kind of fraudulent this year?
Yeah, Iowa State 3 seed. Wow.
Iowa State three seed is kind of garbage with their best player hurt. Kentucky three seed is pretty weak. Wisconsin three seed is concerning.
And
Who's
then
the I
Texas
mean
Tech. Yeah,
yeah,
that's some
that's
garbage.
yeah, if if you could sell stock in any seed, I think it would be the three seed.
Yeah, give me oh, Florida. Florida's tempting, dude.
Yeah, the stuff with their coach though kind of turns me off.
But it hasn't affected them at all. So it's like
Yeah, but if it were, I just feel like the other shoe's got to drop at some point. I
and
don't know.
if it were to drop, it would be during March Madness probably. So
I'm a Patino stan. Like
oh my gosh.
I gotta go with my boy Slick Rick. I just he is death, destroyer of the worlds. I mean, he's taken three schools to a Final Four, like three different schools. Patino's taken to a Final Four, so this would be his
That's
fourth.
insane.
Like it, it has to happen.
Did Pope win the national championship with Pitino as coach at Kentucky?
Yeah,
Dang, there you go. History.
yeah. So Patino took Providence, Kentucky, and Louisville to Final Fours.
Wow.
Won natties with Kentucky and Providence, or Kentucky and Louisville, but the NCAA tried to steal it from him. But I mean, you can't unhang a banner. Like
They can try.
so yeah, it's either Houston or St. John's for me, and then Kentucky, like can Kentucky, I could either see losing in the first round or going to the Final Four. Just like and that's the Mark Pope experience. It's all or nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I
Depending
think,
on if Jackson Robinson can hit threes.
well, I think he's hurt, isn't he?
Okay, well, depending on if Colin Chandler can hit threes.
Hey, according to our guy Kyle Mann from The Ringer, is Colin Chandler greater than Jackson
Yeah,
Robinson?
could
It's the
be.
astronaut meme, always has been.
Yeah. Heard it here first. Well, can't wait to hear who you guys pick and when our brackets fall apart immediately after the first game on Thursday. That will be fun for all of us. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you guys next time.